24066.
I move we approve the warrants.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
That's all that I have.
Okay, we're going to move on to public participation. I do have a Mark Butler listed on the sheet here. If you could please come forward, state your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Mark Butler. Also present with me is my wife Francine Butler. The address, 825 North Houck Road, Delaware, Ohio. And we're representing the Community Arts Network. So I start like now? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
go
All
ahead.
right. Thank you.
I was just listing your address right now.
Okay. All right. This monument, I'm looking over to the left, was dedicated on Memorial Day of 1913 to honor the Union soldiers of the Civil War. Okay, and veterans were attending it, and it's a beautiful marker displaying America's history, the bloodiest war in America's history. I'm here tonight to first of all give thanks for all the veterans here and at the sound of my voice, those who are on the internet, that seem very important to recognize our vets. And before I give my last words on the living veterans, I want to talk a little bit about what we're trying to do out of Delaware, Ohio. For those of you who are familiar with the movie Glory, you don't have to raise your hand. It's a very, very nice movie describing basically the United States colored troops. However, 20% of those men who made up that 54th or 55th Regiment out of Massachusetts came from Delaware, Ohio, which is right down the road. So my wife and I have produced an original musical called Camp Delaware, in which we go through letters, research from the Ohio Historical Society, Delaware Historical Society, where we retell the story of the colored troops at Camp Delaware. 4 of those members of Camp Delaware were Congressional Medal honor winners during the Civil War from Camp Delaware. Reason why I'm emphasizing Camp Delaware, because that's part of our, not only national history, part of Ohio history that sometimes it's never told in our classrooms. But I believe it's very important history to know, not just for Plain City, Columbus, Ohio, New York, but for our nation's history and the service that America's black men, especially from Ohio, gave to this country to fight enslavement. So I'm going to conclude with these remarks, is that we are producing this play at the Majestic Theater in Marysville, Ohio. I think they still call it the Union Auditorium or Union Theater or Veterans Memorial Theater on July 13th. Which is a week and so. So I just want to come by, stop by, invite the public, invite yourselves to this production, and learn about the story of the colored troops of Camp Delaware. And also, finally, if you are a vet, this is my gift to the veterans. Where I don't care if you're coming from, I don't know where they come. Your admission is free. Some folks say, well, how are you going to make it much? It's not about the money. It's about the service like the vets gave for us. Whether it be the Civil War, the current wars, appreciate men and women who are serving our country. And with that, I conclude. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. speak up, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification, since we have Eric Phillips in the room, is the Majestic Theater now the Avalon Theater, or are those two separate?
That's
The county building.
It's called.
Oh, it's in the county building?
It's
It's the
called,
county building.
yeah, Veterans Memorial Auditorium. Thank you.
Okay, it's in the county building, not
County
the
building,
not the
yes.
Avalon Theater in town. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Excellent, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would it be possible to maybe ask Mr. Butler to leave a few of these and we'll put them at the front of the township?
Any extras?
Do you have any extras?
Yes.
Would you like to leave some with me, Mr. Butler? I'll
Okay,
leave some at the
sure.
front.
Oh, you need one? Okay, you need one. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Thank you,
Take
thank you
care.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your efforts. Okay, next we've got zoning nuisance and economic development actions. Eric?
Nothing new to report at this time. Multiple nuisance violations in various processes, but we are getting results on many fronts. It's just that time of year.
Do we need to set a public hearing date for case Z24001?
Yes, sir. I would appreciate a case being set. You have 30 days from receipt. And so the hearing would need to be on the 16th of July.
I move that we set a public hearing date for case Z24001, rezoning of 9001 Warner Road for our next meeting date of July 16th at 7 p.m. here at the Township Hall. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Badger?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Allen, I just,
This is for a different
That's
reason.
Glenn as well. Yeah, that's going to be a
no,
problem.
it is my case though, too. I won't be able to be here, I'll have my partner here, I just wanted to let you know, not being disrespectful, I just am not gonna be out of town with my family.
Hold on one second. Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, other members of the board, Mr. Duggar. So the hearing does need to be on the 16th
Right.
by statutory, but the board could continue it to the 6th if you want to just do a big
No,
marathon.
I'll let you know, Eric, but I think I've got it covered.
Okay.
It's about the least complicated zoning case you've probably ever had. So I don't really have a lot of concern that it's gonna be hard to, cover my presence on that night. So I just wanted
Okay.
to
Appreciate
let
the
you know
clarification.
that I'm not being disrespectful, I'm out of town that week with my family, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the public safety officer, so we'll skip that, and if someone shows up, we'll come back to that. Administrator report. I have in our packet here the information provided from the fire chief about the monthly responses. There's a note at the bottom here saying that there's a final inspection in late June with delivery in July for a medic unit. And there's a tanker delivery is still on schedule for fall of 2025. Any other further comments about the fire department? Road division, and I thought I would. Okay. I've got the road division report in here. I don't see the language here, and I've got it on my email. You can read through all the things that were done with, car show was June 1st, last month. We got cold patching on Warner Road, Mitchell DeWitt. Cemeteries, they received some graves and trees removed, cold patch potholes, poured some concrete in our parking lot. Took down the Harry Wolf sign and planted grass seed and trimmed the wood line of Harry Wolf Park. Those are the highlights from the report here. I do know that we, there was some other repair work done on some of the trucks also noted in this report. The township administrator asked me to authorize him to move forward on the hiring of a candidate A. We had a vacancy, and one of our candidates left to go back to his former position with the county. So let me see if I can pull up the language here. If not, I may refer to our legal counsel to get me the right language, but my apologies, I should have had this done earlier. I just thought it would be in my packet, but it wasn't. I can't find it, but basically, I'd like to move that we authorize our township administrator to move forward with the hiring of candidate A pending the completion of all the required conditional reviews. I'm not sure the exact wording for that.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Mr. Snowden, would you like to provide an update on the comprehensive plan project?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, other members of the board, very briefly. Thank you to Mr. Adler for meeting with MKSK. They are reaching out to all the trustees to schedule that. Please, it's the purpose of this is just to give you an update about where we are. Please know I will be out, I will be on vacation next week. Brandon can be available, or Peyton if you'd like assistance. But MKSK and their planning team will meet with you individually. They can do something by phone. So please reach out to them if you haven't, and let me know what I can do. At that point, once they've touched base with all the trustees, they are going to put a draft plan out to the community and meet with the steering committee again. And then the public engagement will really begin in earnest for the plan document itself, if they want to update you before we move forward.
Any questions? Thank you. Next, under old business, we've got marijuana land uses discussion. I did go back to the minutes. We had a brief discussion of this back in March of this year, and I think we left it at the request to have Mr. Snowden to look into potential land use, appropriate areas for any potential land use. There's some concerns that he's expressed, and I don't know if you want to start the discussion, but we've invited Mr. Miller here to tell us an update, give us an update on what's going on with marijuana land usage and zoning. Do you have any words?
Mr. Chairman and other trustees, I'd like to just allow Mr. Bodenmiller to make a very short presentation to you about the regulatory space that we're dealing with, so that everybody understands some of the challenges. I think we have two items to keep in mind. We have what the final policy is, which is what was discussed several months ago, and then we have some of the steps in the process of crafting those regulations, walking them through, timing, and that sort of thing. Ms. Huber is also aware of, I guess, my position, so feel free to quiz her as well. But before we do that, I think it would help everybody if Brad could just, and feel free to move him along as well if you understand it, but I think it would be valuable for everybody if we just allow him the floor, with your permission. He has a
Miller, would
power.
you like to jump up here and state your name and address? And
My name is Brad Bodenmiller from LUC, and my address is East Liberty. So this is just a presentation that we put together. I think most recently did this in Marysville. So, you know, LUC's mission statement is, or what am I doing here? We have a 4-bulleted mission statement. We provide local governments training and education, so that's why I'm sharing this with you. Keep in mind, we're not attorneys, we're not engineers, we're not surveyors, we're not zoning inspectors, we're planners, so please take this information with a grain of salt. This comes from issue 2. So there's going to be a division, there is a division of cannabis control to administer this program. If you followed the medical marijuana program, there was a special rulemaking committee to help them come up with those rules for how they're going to regulate medical marijuana. That same organization does not exist for adult use cannabis, or what most sense initiative and this joint committee on agency rule review that they'll participate with, but it's not the same level of detail through the rulemaking process as there was with medical. You can look at draft rules on their website. Last time for medical, we kind of updated this chart as we went. For you all, for your purposes, you're going to be most interested in cultivators, which is where this marijuana is grown, processors, where it's manufactured into a product to sell to consumers at dispensaries. Testing labs are exempt, just like agriculture, so you're not going to be able to regulate those. But the rulemaking process for this isn't quite working out the same way, so I'll probably end up deleting this slide.
Could I interrupt? When you say
Yeah.
testing laboratories are exempt, what does that mean in terms of where they're allowed to be?
Correct, you cannot zone through your zoning regulations where they're going to locate. But there's only 10 to the medical marijuana program right now, so I don't think you're going to be overrun with cannabis testing laboratories.
Okay, now are the testing laboratories different for recreational than for medical?
They have different definitions. It's
Okay.
possible for them to do both things at once.
So there may be more than 10 in the future.
Correct, yep. So these are example rules for the medical cultivators, and I put these in here because what I would hate for people to do is put strange things in your zoning regulations that you can't put in there. But I also want to give you some comfort if you want to allow cultivators, or if you want to prohibit them too, of what some of those rules might look like. So they have to comply with the security plan that they submit as part of their application to the state. They have to have a security alarm system around the perimeter of the facility. They have to have surveillance recording systems. They have to light the outside perimeter. They have to have fencing. So some of those things like fencing you could probably require in your zoning, but you guys couldn't say, hey, you have to have a video recording system. That doesn't really mesh with what you can't do in zoning. This shows you the districts. I'm going to walk over here real quick. So Union, Champaign, and Clark were in a district. Logan, Shelby, and May, they were a district for the medical marijuana dispensary licenses. Only Clark, I think, had licenses granted, so right now there's not actually facilities in Union County or Champaign. And I don't think Logan and Shelby, I think they were both in Miami, but there were only 2 dispensaries allowed anyways in those districts. We'll skip the next couple slides. It's just stuff from the Board of Pharmacy. This shows you where dispensary districts were located in April of 2021. So this is Lima, this is Kenton, this is Sydney, this is Delaware, this is Franklin. So my point is we have kind of a gap space here, so you wouldn't be unlikely to get requests for this in our 3-county area. This shows you the number of licenses through the medical program. So cultivators, there's 2 types of cultivators. So there's level 1, level 2. Level 1 is the big one. So level 1 initially could be a 25,000 square foot facility. They could expand up to 50 and up to 75,000 square feet. And level 2 is smaller, so they were 3,000 square foot facilities and they could expand up to 6 and 9,000 square feet. There's 23 total level 1 licenses, 14 total level 2 licenses, and there's 46 processor licenses, which again is where they take a raw product and make it into a raw material, which would be cannabis, make it into a product to sell to consumers. Testing labs 10, and then dispensaries are 132. So this chart's going to be harder to fill out. Back to the medical program, this chart was larger, but I've taken it out of the presentation. This is going to be harder to update for this, and I'm going to show you why on the next slide. So you'll want to know probably how many licenses there could be. So my statement, that would be my statement that is not a quotable statement, please don't quote me on my statement, is this could add up to 260 dispensaries potentially, maybe more, maybe less. So this breaks down what those look like. So the first bullet point says each existing cultivator, processor, testing lab, and dispensary gets a non-medical license. So if I'm a medical marijuana dispensary, I can convert to both non-medical and medical. So existing medical marijuana cultivators that are level 1 receive 3 dispensary licenses. So if you're an existing medical marijuana cultivator, one of the bigger ones, you get 3 dispensary licenses. If you're level 2, you get 1 dispensary license. There's going to be 40 level 3 cultivators. Remember, we only talked about 1 and 2. There aren't those in the medical program. There's going to be 40 new licenses for level 3 cultivators, which are even smaller. And then there's going to be an additional 15 new licenses for dispensaries. Those have stipulations, and then existing medical marijuana dispensaries that are not commonly owned or controlled by cultivators or processors receive one additional dispensary license. So that's how that could add up to a couple hundred new dispensaries. But my point is, it's not going to be all of a sudden a whole bunch of new dispensaries. So this is what I think is important for your discussion. So we're moving into the adult use cannabis recreational marijuana here. So municipal and township authority, you can pass you could tell me to be quiet and you guys can pass a resolution right now to regulate these things. Because you have special powers when it comes to cannabis outside of your zoning powers, so sometimes that trips people up. So you have legislative authority to prohibit or limit the number of adult use cannabis operators, including level 1, 2, and 3 cultivators, processors, or dispensaries. The agriculture, no matter what you do, you need to think about how you want to deal with your agriculture exemption, and I'll tell you about that here in a moment. But you also can't prohibit or limit testing laboratories. There are general rules for licensing, so if I wanted to open a dispensary, I have to locate that 500 feet away from schools, churches, libraries, playgrounds, and public parks. There are some caveats to that because there are ways to convert existing facilities, but again, we don't have those facilities in Jordan Township, so you don't necessarily have to worry about the complexities of that. But each one of those terms doesn't match with what's in your zoning. Those are actually revised code terms. So what you think of as a church or a school might not be the same thing as what's in the revised code. So what can you not prohibit? So the first thing is you can't limit research on testing laboratories like I mentioned. The next bullet point there, it reads, levying any tax, fee, or charge on adult use cannabis operators, their owners, or their property which is not generally charged on other businesses in the municipal corporation or township is prohibited. So you can't pass extra rules to put on them to tax them. You also can't limit home grow. So you can't prevent people from using the initiative that was passed from growing in their house. There are limitations to that. So I don't want anybody from the public or the board to leave here thinking you can do things outside of that. You have to consult the website and figure out what you're going to grow on your own. So special caveats for cannabis, you guys don't have to worry about this because we're not talking about converting facilities. As you all do research, you can go right on the Division of Cannabis Control's website. Right on the homepage, you can find a copy of the statute. There's an FAQ attachment, and there's proposed rules, so you can find a lot out there. You can even sign up for the newsletter if you really want. So for zoning, there's key terminology to think about. So you guys can regulate adult use cannabis operators. So those include cultivators, processors, and dispensaries. It does not include testing labs. There are allowable forms of adult use cannabis, which include plants and seeds. There's a whole host of things that people will be able to sell on that page. My point is, people are always kind of asking about selling plants and seeds, so I'm pointing that out to everybody. At the time that I pulled this, which was at the end of February, you could grow marijuana technically, but you couldn't actually purchase it because the purchasing system wasn't in place. So I don't know whether that's effective now or not. It doesn't necessarily matter for your zoning purposes, just point that out. On zoning, the definitions are very important. When we came up with your zoning codes back in the day, and even when you most recently amended them, adult use cannabis was not a permitted use, right? So what that means is people might say, I fit under these existing uses. So you need to think about, do you want to continue to be intentional where you want to put uses in the township? Do you think these uses already fit under your existing uses? Or do you want to say, not in this district, but yes in this other district? This is the definition for agriculture from the revised code. This also shows you your ag exemption section from the revised code. We don't need to read it. It's just placing limitations on what you can and can't regulate through agriculture. But the point is, when they updated the medical marijuana rules and added the rules to the revised code, they placed a special carve out in that section I pointed to a moment ago about ag exemptions. For medical marijuana, it says medical marijuana doesn't count as falling under the ag exemption. They did not do the same thing with recreational marijuana. So what does that mean for you? I don't entirely know. I think you can very easily regulate dispensaries and processors through your zoning code, but that causes a complication for you. So at the board trustee level, you could pass a resolution about cultivators until you can figure that out. You could also pass the same thing about processors and dispensaries until we have a model text for you to start working through. examples of business uses that are in township zoning resolutions for definitions. So you see drugstores, business shopping type retail talks about a wide variety of comparison goods. So probably somebody's going to look at a dispensary the same way that you're going to look at a furniture store. I'm only selling one or two things. I'm selling a big variety of them. So you would want to create a special definition for a dispensary to be able to say, yes, in our commercial district. Same with food processing. Might advance on my next slide. My battery may have died. Thanks, sir. Same with manufacturing. I think my battery did finally die after 10 years. You can keep going, Eric. I think, so your choices are, you guys can choose to do nothing, you could permit with additional requirements or as a conditional use, or you could prohibit it. I'm going to the next one. One more, and then I think I'm done. So as you're doing research as a trustee or you're having your zoning commission research this website through the state of Washington is actually very helpful. When you go there, it's a GIS map, and you can see red, yellow, and green dots. If you click the red dot, it will tell you, it'll give you a resolution from a township or municipality that prohibited marijuana. Same with green, and then all the reasoning behind what they did is in that PDF, and also samples and the resolution text. We can stop there because my clicker died. But to answer any questions.
I've got a question. Is to be a processor or a dispensary, doesn't have to be licensed by the state of Ohio?
You do have to
Okay.
be licensed by the state of
But,
Ohio.
and that those licensing procedures have not yet been approved. Is that correct?
So the licensing procedures for medical marijuana are approved.
Right, but
Ones
not
for
recreational.
recreational are going through the rulemaking process.
Okay, and is it true what I heard on the news yesterday, that won't even be reviewed now until November?
Initially, I think they were shooting for a June or July deadline, so I'm not sure that
But
that's.
they adjourned
the
it
case here.
until November is what I heard yesterday.
I don't know what the current status of the rulemaking process is, but they were on a pretty aggressive timeline, I thought.
And when it comes to zoning, if somebody would want to make an application, but they don't have a license, can they make an application or not?
I can answer that question. The answer is, the way our zoning resolution is constructed now, the answer is yes. Okay, I'm not trying to be alarmist, but folks could and are contacting my office. In fact, I got another call earlier today saying, hey, I'm ready to file a zoning certificate for my retail sales business. And that retail, what are you retail selling? Well, I'm retail selling, marijuana, adult use marijuana. Those conversations are starting to happen. So that's the purpose of staff kind of moving forward to where we're at now. Brad wanted to give you the background, but the reason that staff is bringing this forward is not because it's staff's position that this should be the board's policy. It's the board who sets the policy. But as far as crafting an amendment, which Mr. Bodenmiller is crafting model text as we speak, he didn't go into what he is crafting, but he and I have talked at length about what he is crafting. It's not overly complicated, but it's going to define these uses as certain specific land uses, and then ultimately the board, but let's just say the township, will have the opportunity to put those as either permitted or conditional in the correct zoning district. Many communities, from a process standpoint, are placing them as conditional uses in their most intense commercial district, for example, with the idea that it just gives the BZA the opportunity to get them to commit to a site plan. Even if the township was going to take the position that these uses will not be allowed in any zoning district except by rezoning to a PD district so that folks will make the commitments that are part of a PD district, it would still be necessary to define these in the zoning resolution to make my job easier. So that's ultimately why staff is bringing this resolution forward. Fundamentally, what we have brought forward is a resolution that prohibits both medical marijuana and adult marijuana land uses. As Brad said, doesn't affect the home grow requirements and all those things that are separate as part of the law. And even though we're bringing it forward as a prohibition, this resolution was drafted originally by the county prosecutor's office for all of the 14 townships. I know Ms. Huber has refined it for us to make it more consistent with some of the terminology maybe we use here at the township or formatting. But the purpose is just simply, from staff's perspective, is to give my office Mr. Bowden Miller, your Township Zoning Commission, and the public time to continue to work on this, craft a text amendment, which we will do as quickly as possible, but nonetheless, crafting a text amendment and having appropriate public input takes longer than it does to file a permit application with my office. So that's why we're bringing it forward. My hope for the board is that these land uses, if they come, will go to the zoning districts and locations that the board has determined in advance are appropriate. And that's why I'm bringing this legislation to you this evening.
Ultimately, you have a planned community. I think it makes sense to figure out what districts you want to get and what districts you don't.
How long do you think that process would take? You say you've got some drafted codes and resolutions.
For
some
our options, it's going to be on our July agenda, which is July 11th, I think is when we're going to look at it. We may say yes or no at that meeting. It'd probably be by the latest August. I anticipate acting on them in July. We'll see. You can actually see our medical marijuana text is on our website now.
And I have a copy. What would happen then, and like I said, we're partnered with Brad. If Ms. Huber and I go and, our township zoning resolution is based off a model. That model was written all the way back in the 1970s. It's been updated over the years, but it's based off a model. And whenever there's a regulatory area or a question that comes up, the first thing I do is go to the model. The reason I do that is because, one, it all works together theoretically, and two, it saves us, the township zoning department, and therefore the taxpayer, the time and money of having Ms. Huber and I craft something specific. Now, when the time comes that we need to bring something before the board, we have no problem. I know I speak for Ms. Huber. We will make sure that is to the satisfaction of the board. What Brad is writing is purely a starting point. But just as an example, the starting point that he's going to bring us, the starting model text, will be something that Ms. Huber and I could probably work our way through in the afternoon and then bring before the zoning commission, rather than have to spend days and hours writing something up just to come to some of the same definitions that he's already doing. Very briefly, if you adopted the resolution as has been presented, and Brad is working as he has stated, once LUC, the executive committee, approves the model text, it will be of the highest priority within reason and subject to the administrative requirements of the zoning department for me to review that with Ms. Huber. We will then bring it, we'll share, communicate with the board certainly. We'll share a copy with the zoning commission. We will work on it either informally or as necessary with the zoning commission. Then we will go through the amendment process, and that amendment process takes approximately 90 days from whenever we start to have an effective text amendment. So we're talking about something that's going to be happening in a matter of months rather than a matter of years. But that's the timeline. As always, if folks have good comments, we'll make the updates, but it takes more time. That's just the nature of writing zoning text.
Joe, do you have any thoughts?
We had done this before when medical marijuana had been approved. I think number 4 on here, the other page, like repeals what we've done before and then just has one resolution for both things.
It could have been done either way, Mr. Kraft. It could have been done either way. The reason that I wrote it that way is because it was based off what the prosecutor's office had already written. It could have been done the other way. That was just the decision that was made to not have to reference 2 resolutions and sharing this. Because what's also happening is folks are contacting my office and saying, can I have a copy of this resolution that prohibits both? So that's purely a housekeeping thing. I know Ms. Huber has looked at this as to its form, legal form.
So resolution 17088 is just basically prohibiting medical marijuana? and
Land
not
uses.
recreation-
That is
land
correct.
uses? Well,
Correct.
if it's land uses, does that also include recreational marijuana? Do we already have one?
No, because they're defined differently. The resolution you're referencing, which I have the original right here, is resolution 17-088. It was an adoption. The board passed a resolution that said the Board of Trustees replaced the medical marijuana moratorium with a prohibition on the advice of legal counsel. That was the resolution. The resolution here was a moratorium of one year. That's what they did in 17, but it only applies to medical marijuana land uses because those were the only uses that were defined in state law at the time. This resolution will prohibit both. Again, staff's recommending this only as a temporary measure to allow time to craft this, even though it says prohibition. It is staff's intention, at the will of the board, to bring this back before, this policy back before the board in the near future.
So I appreciate the research that's been done on this, and I think it's important that the board has as much community feedback and technical advice on issues like this. And I'm going to support a regulation or zoning amendment that is fair and reasonable. That work can take time, but it is worth doing correctly for our residents and our landowners. And based on the community feedback, I can't support a permanent ban on land uses, but everyone needs to remember that this area of law is new and rapidly evolving. Our team needs time to draft something that will be fair, legally sound, and implement the land use policy that the board supports. We want the zoning commission to have a reasonable amount of time to review any proposed regulations, and they are here to help the board review complex zoning amendments and make suggestions for the benefit of everyone involved. Most importantly, the community needs time to provide specific feedback on any proposed amendments to our township zoning regulations, including this issue. Based on all of this, I am willing to support this resolution being presented, but only as a temporary measure while we will work through remaining issues and partnering with Brad and LUC on this issue. It's a great example of regional cooperation. I think it'll allow for input from the Regional Planning Commission and from the County Prosecutor's Office on the 3 counties at no cost to the township, saving taxpayer money as well. Anyone who wants to establish one of these business types is encouraged to continue to provide feedback to the zoning department. This resolution will not change that, but if we do not act on how to guide this process, we might end up with a land use in place that we don't want, or we might have to rush the drafting process in the future. So those are my thoughts on this, and you know, if there isn't any other discussion, I am ready to move forward.
I'd like to ask a question, legal question. If we adopt this, can we adopt a time period when this is in effect? Or do we just have to adopt a prohibition in general and have to come back and rescind it at a later date? Because I'm okay with maybe 3-4 months of prohibiting, but I don't want us to get into a problem of rescinding it at a later date.
I mean, I'd hate to say 3 months and then find out it takes 3 months and 10 days, you know.
Well, 4 or 5 months.
Mr. Adler, I'll let Ms. Hubert walk you through the legal concept, but from a process standpoint, whatever, this isn't my first rodeo on stuff like this. Whatever time we pick, you all pick, is going to be the wrong time. It'll either be too short, and I'll be coming back to you saying I need another moratorium, I need another moratorium, I need another moratorium or extension of whatever the terminology is. Or it'll be too long, and you'll be saying, why isn't this done? And well, you gave it a moratorium of a year, and so Eric's taking the whole year because he's got stacks of cases this high. It's not my intention to come in this evening and give you a sob story and say that my office has too much work. That's not my intention. I'm telling you I'm making it the highest priority, but I can also tell you that when cases hit the counter, that is the highest priority to that individual. Everybody's case is the most
I
important
think that
thing.
also has a lot to do with state law. You know,
If state law changes, we might be coming back for, we might have to start over. I mean, it's very possible.
To your question, for the reasons that have been said, it is in all likelihood smoother, more consistent, easier to, on both sides, right? Easier to comply with or later rescind when you're ready to, if it is time frameless and more just a standard resolution. Does the BAT board have the authority to put time limits on resolutions? I mean, yeah, you could.
But could we say up to 4 months unless otherwise determined by the Board of Trustees to be shortened or lengthened?
Well, you then have to modify, I mean,
Then we could come back and decide.
You could, but again, you're,
Different day.
in my mind, if I'm gonna advocate for that, you're saving yourself not a lot of work because you're gonna come back
Seems like more
either
work.
way.
Ms. Huber, wouldn't it be possible, even if let's just say hypothetically, Mr. Adler wanted to support this resolution, but he could say in both now in discussion or when the motion is made, he could say that he could state his position, how long he thinks is reasonable. He could state for staff to work on, whether that's accurate or not is not the point, but just what his position is. He could state that he's directing staff to move as quickly as possible, those sort of, he could state his
Sure.
position.
Well, and any of the trustees could bring this back, if you don't put a timeline on it. You could bring it back at any time as the legislative body of this township
Yes.
for a vote by the board. If you say, basically, and I'm not saying you are, but if you were to say, it's been 5 months and the pumpkin's getting, if everybody's turning back into a pumpkin, it's time to move on this. You could do that. You still need a majority vote, but you need a majority vote either way.
I guess I'm just concerned if there is no time limit. I've seen things drag on, and this would put a little bit of pressure on the zoning department to move forward.
With respect, my office doesn't need any more pressure. I'm working as quickly as possible for the good of your direction, but I don't need pressure. With respect.
Or prioritizing, I guess.
I think that's also being well communicated, in my opinion, being well communicated by the board here tonight. There are also variables that don't include the township itself, which
I have
you're
no
more thinking of the variable,
concerns.
but there are pieces of the puzzle.
I have
that-
no concerns with our staff handling applications in an efficient manner.
I mean, I keep in
Applications.
mind, we're working on the text, so you have text. I can't promise that the text's not gonna be done, I don't really believe that to be the case. But, keep in mind, I put the, solar panels on 50 megawatts, went through this whole process of working with her, we had model text and then the state law change, which is fine, that's great, but then we had to update the model text, go back through, so
Sure.
hopefully we won't have to do the same thing with recreational marijuana, but it seems like they're so that you kind of have a few things going on. You have the medical marijuana revised code section, then there's the administrative code rules. Then you have the section that defines what marijuana is, that probably won't change. But then you have recreational marijuana section of the revised code. They seem to be trying to merge them in some way, shape, or form, but it was a voter initiated activity, so I don't know how easily they'll be able to do that. So I would just be cautious that there's a possibility they'll tweak whatever the law says too. And we'll also have a version 1 and a version 2, so I'm not telling you advocating one way or another.
Sure.
Joe, any discussion?
I'm not in favor of like a time limit. And as the board say it's been a couple months, we can do a motion to send it to the zoning commission to do it.
That's how I would do it, but I'm a little more aggressive about stuff. If I didn't like where it was going, I'd say, I'm going to start an amendment. We'll keep the moratorium on. Once the amendment's in place, I'll take away the moratorium.
Like we'd ask the zoning commission to take it up.
I have a suggestion. I'm sorry, Mr. Kraft. For example, in these agenda, I could have Ms. Bollinger place where it says comprehensive plan report. I could have marijuana land uses update. So that and whether I send you an email, whether I'm here at the meeting, whether I'm giving Brandon something to say, whatever it is, but that would hold me accountable. Accountable. The board has the right to hold me accountable, but I can just tell you from experience, whatever time we pick, it'll be the wrong one. That's just the nature of this type of work. I'm happy to ask Ms. Bollinger to do that on your behalf. Barry, you have the power as a trustee to place this back on the agenda at under old business, new business, whatever you want at any time. And you have the power to make a motion to rescind the resolution or whatever. You have that authority. Doesn't take that authority away.
I'm also hearing, I think, a pretty wide swath of agreement among the three of you, which means that legislative directive is being heard loud and clear by staff. And that's, we take all of our direction from you. So that's not, there's no way for that to be, put lower down. We hear that that's a priority of all three of you, which means that's where it will stay on the list of items.
Yes.
So I'm not in favor of doing nothing at this meeting. and I'm not in favor of if we, I'd like to adopt this without a time.
I'd like to make a motion to
Date and time.
prohibit adult use cannabis operators and medical marijuana cultivators, processors, and retail dispensaries within the unincorporated area of Jerome Township.
Just to clarify, Ms. Davis, is that a motion to adopt this resolution that
Yes,
you have in
I'm
front of
sorry,
you?
yes.
Understood, thank you.
Do I have a second?
I guess I'm still hesitant to not put the timeline on this because of a comprehensive plan for his drug on. It's over 2 years now. If our staff is not prioritized, then I guess we can come back and prioritize it, I suppose, is what you're saying.
I want to work with you on this, but second.
Roll call?
Mr. Adler?
No.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes,
We'll work quickly, Gary.
we'll work with you.
It's important just to be efficient.
We're not gonna leave it for Erica. Oh, okay. I'm just easy. Here, let me get mine.
Unless we decide otherwise.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I think we can, send it to the zoning commission in a couple months, maybe, something like that.
Okay,
Just got some signatures.
quick question, did we resolve the technical difficulties? Are we live streaming now?
You should be live streaming, correct.
Okay, well, I'd just like to make an announcement to the people that are watching the live stream that we had technical difficulties at the beginning of the meeting. So approximately the first half hour or so is available through audio recordings. It is not on the live stream, so please request audio recordings.
Post it to the website.
Which will be posted to the website. Just gonna pause to make some signatures here.
Mr. Chairman, we don't need to stay for anything else.
Well, I was gonna ask you, is there any update that we need to go into executive session for?
Not from me.
Okay.
If you have questions.
Thank you, Jen.
Well, before executive session, we do have new business anyways on the agenda, but since the PSO officer has shown up now, we'll
I
move
apologize
back
for
to
being
that.
late. I'm doing the active case right now, and I need to get back to it. Obviously, there's construction every corner of this township, so we've been getting a lot of complaints. We've been patrolling this area heavily. Do you guys have anything I need to relay on to the drone guys?
No, but could you state your name for the
I'm
public?
Deputy Snyder. I'm Rachel. I'm one of the new PSOs. I'm not technically a PSO, but Matthew Bebott and I replaced Sean Phelan and Jim Mitchell down here, so I'll be with you guys for the next 6 months, and I'll be attending your meeting with you guys. It's nice to meet everybody again. I was down here with Sean a few times when I was in
Right.
Exeter, but
No, I know I've seen several complaints about the detours and the traffic
Yes.
and everything, and I
Yeah.
understand it. There's only so much that you are able to do, just to be aware that that is a continuing
Yes.
concern for residents.
so.
Any other issues that anybody else has to bring up?
No, thank you so much.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank
service.
you.
Be safe out
Nice
there.
to meet you.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Next, under new business, the Darren Court abatement. We have Mr. Phillips here from the Economic Development Council, and Economic Development Authority. The Director of Economic Development for the Union County. Please state your name and address, and you have a presentation.
New address, 1100 Innovation Way in Marysville, 43040. Just a note on this, not to forget. So it says Vets Auditorium, however, the address is at the Avalon. So I emailed them to tell them that I think it's at Vets Auditorium, but it's one of the Avalon theaters. And it looks like Lincoln, the movie, is showing the night of this. So I think it's at the Vets Auditorium. There's no schedule online. I think the confusion is the Avalon is actually operating or renting out the Vets Auditorium on behalf of the county. county, so I think.
The Avalon address on here?
Yeah, that's the Avalon address. So I think it's
So Barry, you
233
were on
West
the right
6th Street.
path.
And it's actually 233 West 6th Street is where this is at.
I-
So
Good news is they're in walking distance.
Yeah, they are, and I did email the email, just clarification.
Appreciate the correction. For
So the Avalon-
those people that are listening in the audio.
Oh, God.
over here.
Do we have their phone number on there?
I can reach out to them. I actually, this is more information you probably wanted to know, but the musical group that's listed there under the bottom, I actually used to be in because I'm
Are
a
you
huge
serious?
nerd like that. So yes, but I'll reach out to the folks that I know.
I did email
You-
and did try to correct.
We could get it right in the paper,
Yeah.
make sure the newspaper has it word correct.
I think it is to put the Avalon because that's who's operating or renting out that's how it runs. Anyway, just a clarification.
That would
Because
be
they confused
for-
them between the Avalon was correct because the address is incorrect. So,
I'm
Looks
sure,
like a great music.
I'm sure that the newspaper will have the correct information.
I will not give these out, but we'll reach out to them.
It does look like a great musical, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Mr. President, trustees. Tonight we have a tax incentive, a tax abatement through our enterprise zone program that we offer. And of course, there is a CRA in this area, but again, we're working with the township on economic development, and we want to do the enterprise zone program so it allows the township to have a say as well as the county as far as doing tax abatements. So Darren Flex, Court Flex, is proposing, and I have a map here as well, I'll go to the next slide, is proposing to construct a 24,000 square foot multi-tenant speculative building, which would be a Class A industrial space. Actually, we have a vacancy rate of 1.7% in the county, so it's very low. So this is much needed space. We create approximately estimated 25 jobs, payroll about 1.25 million, investment about 3.5 million. It's located at 7460, 7565 Darien Court here in the township. This is a proposed layout of the structure. There's actually two parcels. This is actually the two parcels here, and this is the shape of the building. Originally, the developer was proposing to purchase another half acre off a neighbor and was not able to do that. So the size of the building has come down a little bit as a result of that inability to purchase the property. But again, it's multi-tenant space that's really needed in the community. This provides some of the more details. They're requesting a 45% 7-year abatement for the project. It does satisfy the level 3 in the incentive policy for 45% for 7 years. I realize the township is asked to remove itself from the incentive policy, but we're trying our best to redo the incentive policy. That's why we hired a consultant, and we're going to come back with some proposals, some ideas for the township to consider. The company has agreed to a pilot, and pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes, and will contribute a $750 annual payment to the John R. Boosters Club and $750 to the Music Boosters as well, and also make a one-time contribution to the Tolles Career and Technical Foundation that they're working with the Union County Foundation to set up. I think it's around $1,000 they will actually put into that foundation, which is important to Tolles as well. Again, the current vacancy rate in the county is 1.4%. So this industrial speculative space is very much needed. The developer is actually constructing a 55,000 square foot building in the city of Marysville. Actually, it's already completed there as well. And it's also estimated that, or actually given that currently the property is paying $4,200 a year in taxes, in total taxes, about half of which goes to the school district, and the township gets about 30% of that. Now with the abatement, after construction, it's important to point out, it will actually generate $29,000 a year, so you have quite a bit more taxes being paid during the term of the abatement. And then after the abatement expires in 7 years, it would actually generate about $54,000 in annual taxes. And that's kind of the proposal this evening. The process, it would require township consent and county approval. The county commissioner is scheduled tomorrow morning at 8:30 to hopefully approve this. They're scheduled for their hearing tomorrow morning at 8:30. I do have a statement from the developer who's been called out of town and unable to make it. And he states, this is coming from in the email today, the proposed Darien Court Flex project is a speculative multi-tenant flex development led by Pioneer Development in partnership with Trent Hertzfield, a local resident, business owner, an investor, and our contractor, Dublin Building Systems, has been a significant contributor to Union County for many years. Pioneer Development focuses on flex development in Central Ohio, most recently completing a 55,000 square foot facility in Marysville. We're excited to continue our partnership with Union County and Jerome Township on this project and look forward to the new partnership with the township and county. The proposed development will result in a 24,000 square foot new flex product targeting tenant requirements between 3,000 and 12,000 square feet. The vacancy rate in the township and the county for this type of product is near zero, with other new proposed developments targeting larger tenants. This type of product is core to a community, catering to a range of users such as suppliers, contractors, light production or assembly, R&D, and other light industrial users needing a mix of office and warehouse space. While there's a lack of available space and a strong demand for this type of product, this is a very challenging development environment, particularly with smaller spaces like this that tend to have a larger office component than mid-size and larger industrial buildings, and do not benefit from economies of scale. In order to remain competitive with nearby product in neighboring municipalities, the requested tax abatement is critical. Without the abatement, the market rents needed to support the investment would not be competitive, to the detriment of our shared goal of attracting new employers. While abatement is crucial, we are pleased to support the schools and future workforce of this community through annual pilot payments during the life of the abatement. We appreciate the township and county support and partnership on this project, and look forward to continuing to work together to grow the community. And that's from David Sells with Pioneer Flex. So there you are. That's the proposal this evening for your consideration.
Well, I must apologize, I did not read through all the details on the draft, but it was slightly different from what was originally proposed to us, and I was disappointed to see the change. Originally, it was proposed as a 55% 8-year level, but because it was not in the JET, it was reduced to 45%. I understand from Mr. Phillips that their numbers have changed, and now it is lower levels of employees and lower numbers of payroll, but the amount of investment is still larger than what is required for a level 3. So with that under consideration, I just wanted to keep you informed what I've found out about this.
Yeah, the developer contacted us, I don't know, a month and I can't remember exactly when, but had to reduce the size because they couldn't purchase a half acre. They would have made the project 42,000 square feet, more investment, more jobs as a result of it. Yeah,
What they were looking at.
they were trying to purchase that and were unsuccessful, and it happened during the process. Again, it still meets level 3. It's not really this developer's fault that they're not locating the JET. I know our goal was to build a foundation for the JET and to find that the money's going into it, but this property was not included in the CETA map originally.
Any thoughts, concerns, discussion?
Is the school district aware that it's changed?
Nothing's changed in terms of the offer to the school district.
Right, well,
Right, and it's still at a 45% abatement, which is what we originally discussed. The only
So the
change is
investment-
Well, it was
hasn't-
55% and then it became 45 is what you said.
no, I'm saying
No.
the investment hasn't changed, that's,
the investment hasn't changed,
But
the
the
only thing
jobs
that's
have
changed, the
changed.
job numbers and the annual payroll.
and the payroll has changed.
Yes, they've been reduced because they couldn't get the half acre during the process.
So we're willing to go on with these changes, I guess, is my question.
I mean, they still meet the level of the incentive policy. That's the key point. That's the scale we use. The schools still receive their pilot payments as well.
Are two of you okay with that?
Sure.
They talked to the schools before. Did they say, when we talked about this before, they talked to the schools?
Yes, they talked to the schools originally, but the schools don't. They were agreed on the 45% level.
Eric, is this
I guess is what I'm
also,
saying.
didn't they make an agreement, and I could be remembering incorrectly, but wasn't there an agreement about internships with the schools?
So the concern with, when you have multi-tenant buildings, it's difficult to require.
That was with a different
So
opinion.
That was a different.
Okay, okay.
Well, this is true for this one too. We had a lot of meetings with schools on this one because they originally wanted an internship with some of the discussion points. The problem is when you have a multi-tenant building, you have a developer, they have really no control of the tenant, so it's difficult to require an internship. So the schools then asked for a pilot payment, $750 each, and then tolls also requested something, and what we negotiated just over a few weeks ago, over numerous calls and meetings, was actually a contribution to their foundation, and the company agreed to that.
I'm fine so long that the schools are still in agreement with everything. Everything is locked up with the school district.
Yeah, they're all satisfied with the pilot payments that are being made. The key point is, it's only generating $4,200 in annual taxes now, and during the abatement, you'll actually get $29,000 in
Sure.
Oh, I understand that that's what you do,
We understand
economic incentives, but I guess I just need to express my disappointment that the terms got changed on us without fully informing us. But, you know, I think it sounds like we're okay to continue with this because we need to do a resolution. We have to give our consent before the county can go into an agreement with that.
I'll support it.
Okay? All right then, where's the language here? There's two bills, we have to approve one of these, correct, Eric? So I move that we approve the enterprise zone agreement between Union County, Ohio and Darren Court Flex LLC as presented by Mr. Phillips.
Second.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Kraft?
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay,
Get some signatures here.
we have to sign these, and then, is there any other new business that anybody wants to bring up at this point? Okay, then as soon as I sign this, I will get into the announcements. If I can find the sheet again.
Do you want Barry to go ahead and sign the agreement?
Does, he can, Mr. Adler can sign it as long as it's not indicating that it needs to be notarized. It doesn't appear that that's the case. Could you put this at the back of that slide packet? That's the developer statement. That's so in 10 years we can remember. Thank you.
All right, we'll finish up with announcements. The Township Board of Trustees meetings will now be live streamed on YouTube. To watch the Township Trustee meetings, go to the YouTube website and enter a search for Jerome Connections and select the first one with our soldier logo. Again, I apologize for tonight's being abbreviated slightly. Then you'll select live to see the available video. Since this is a new process, please know that we could experience technical issues from time to time. We'll do our best to get them corrected. Residents and visitors, please be advised that the Mitchell DeWitt Road has been closed for will be closed for approximately 90 days for construction of a roundabout closure began the week of May 27th. If you would like to receive notifications regarding the Board of Trustees meetings, please email the Township office at jerometownship@jerometownship.com. The website for the project to update the Township's comprehensive plan is live at www.jerometownshipcomprehensiveplan.com. The Township is always accepting applications for positions on our zoning boards. Please visit the Jerome Township website to fill out an application. It's my understanding we still have an alternate Board of Zoning Appeals position available.
That is correct, sir.
Any other announcements? If not, I move that we adjourn.
The time is
Time is 8:17.
Second?
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
So these tax evasion things are kind of fluid, but I think someone should have let you know what was going on. Yes, that's, yeah.
I saw it on the slides, and I should have read the whole document. It was in the document, but